Hi everyone and welcome to Demo Day here at Sweet Stitches Quilt Shop. Today's theme is beautifully blended, and so everything is going to be about blending fabrics together and fabrics that are a blend of maybe two different fibers. Lots of fun blendy projects for us. So let's get started with what is a blender. So I'm not talking about the kind that you make margaritas in. I'm talking about the kind of blenders that we find in fabrics. So we all know about the main fabrics out there. Those are easy. We fall in love with those, and then we take them home, and then we need to find blenders to go with them to make our quilts. And so a blender is usually a non-directional fabric. It is solid looking in texture, and it has a little bit of texture to it. It's usually those tone-on-tone prints. Blenders help add visual contrast with the main fabric. As you can see here with these fabrics that I have here on the table, I have my main fabric, which is this beautiful piece called Venice from Kaufman Fabrics. We're down to a very little bit of it, but the colors are just amazing on it. So I wanted to use this as my main fabric. And then I wanted to show a couple of the pieces that came with it, which are not small prints, but they still act as blenders. This yellow and the green that came along with the fabric collection. Visually, they look like a solid fabric from a distance. So, but when you get up next to them, they have a lot of interest and pattern to them. So that's really what a blender is. And it's usually made up of lighter and darker tones of the same color in the same color family. So in the yellow here, we have really bright yellows down to some more washed out or darker tones. When we think about tone is when they add gray to a color to change its shading. That's what tone is. Tint is when they add white, and shading is when they add black to a color. So for tones, which we're talking about here in blenders, they're adding a little bit of gray just to change up the color slightly, but they're really basically using the same color. You can see that we have a couple of different examples here in our half-yard cuts of different tone-on-tones that just add a little bit of texture, but they kind of read solid, but they can be a bigger print like the blue here, which looks really pretty with the main fabric. And this one changes up with shades of green in it. So those are also different kinds of blenders. So let's see how those work in the different quilts that I'm going to show you today. So one of the ways that is easiest for most people to pick fabrics is to choose fabrics from all one fabric line. And so that's the easiest way to pick fabrics. Of course, here at Sweet Stitches, we rarely buy a whole fabric line. You know, sometimes that's not in the budget, and sometimes you just don't like every piece that comes in a fabric line. So we like to mix and match different fabric lines, different styles of fabric in our quilts to make them more unique. Sometimes when you use all the same fabrics from a fabric line, a quilt can look flat. Or it can look the same as everybody else who bought the same exact kit that you bought. So we're more about originality and creativity here. So we like to mix our patterns and our colors. And for those of you that are afraid to do that, of course you know that I love to pick out colors. It's my favorite part of my job. And Darla and Marty would probably agree with that too, that they really love picking out the colors. So we're always here to help you with that if you ever need help picking out the perfect blenders for your quilts. So one example of a quilt that I made out of one fabric line, plus I also used a couple of their blenders from the same fabric company. And a lot of times the fabric companies, this is in my opinion, have kind of the same color dyes that they use throughout all their different lines. So a lot of times, a lot of their different collections will blend into each other nicely. So in this case, this is a quilt that I've shown before. This is made out of a line by Wilmington Fabrics. And this is a barn quilt that is made out of one of their fall collections. And then the background fabrics, which is the gray and the teal, are made out of dry brush. And dry brush is Wilmington's version of grunge. It's real pretty. They don't add in extra colors. It's basically a true blender where it's the same color with just different shades of the same color in the piece. Where grunge might have added extra colors printed on top of it. So that's kind of the difference between dry brush and grunge. We love them both here equally. They both have their place, and they both add a lot of interest to the different quilts. So this is one of the barn quilt patterns, and I have 4 different. This is the perfect size for a baby quilt. It's nice and big, a nice square shape, so it looks nice hung on the wall or as a play mat on the floor. So keep these in mind for when you're doing your baby quilts. These are the four different stars. And the one I showed you today is Barn Star number 2. Okay, and so next up, when we are choosing fabrics to go into a quilt, we do try to use as many of the fabric choices that came with the fabric line, but we always add in a few other ones to the mix. And so I did that in this quilt, this table runner I should say. This is called Florette, and it uses a lot of the Moody Blooms fabric line from Moda Fabrics, and it also adds in a few that we had here in the shop because maybe it didn't have enough of a certain color. So it's a cute little pattern. It makes a cute table runner, and it's out of the new Trendy Table 3 booklet. It has 15 designs for runners and toppers. They really have a great way of doing their cover photo. This is her 3rd book in the series. This is by Annika's Treasures. And when they do the photo shoot for the front cover, they do it on a barn, and they put all of the table runners up on the barn to take the picture. It's really a pretty little book. But it also has lots of great designs in it. And this one has some really great winter designs in it. A couple of different snowflakes, a really cute snowman pattern, and then they've got some great stars too. And this Florette pattern also comes in 3 flowers instead of 5 flowers. You can decide how many you want to put in. You can make a whole quilt out of it if you wanted to. And on this one, I did use the folded corner clipper ruler again. So again, that's a great ruler by Creative Grids for doing folded corners. Instead of drawing that line, stitching on the line, and then trimming away the corner. It's just a really great ruler to use, and I've gotten a lot of use out of it over the past 3 months. So this is Florette, and it's in the Trendy Table Runner book. Um, the next group that we have of fabrics that we have blended together are from the Moody Blooms line, plus some from the different thatched fabrics from Moda by Robin Pickens. And then there's also some Robert Kaufman fabrics in here. So we've got three different fabric lines, and they all work beautifully together because we've blended the colors perfectly, or I should say Darla's blended the fabrics perfectly. And this is the Blended Braid Quilt. It is by Eleanor Burns, and it can be done with it can be made using a rotary cutter, or you can use your AccuQuilt system. As you know, Eleanor Burns is big into the AccuQuilt cutting system, and she has a couple of great patterns that we have here in the shop that are a great way to use your AccuQuilt cutting system. And so Darla has made this one up for us, and let me show you the pattern. So what it is a very long table runner, but you can see how pretty she's gradated the fabrics throughout the table runner, and chosen the perfect little border fabric to go around it. They're very easy to make because you're using the chisel die, which is can be found if you have the companion set for corners. It doesn't matter what size you have. If you have the larger size companion set, say you have the 12 or the 10-inch companion set, your braid would just be a little bit larger. And so it is the chisel die, and it is die number 9 in the companion set. We've decided to make this into a class for those of you that have AccuQuilt. Darla has it on the calendar twice this month. It's going to be on March 12th and then March 31st. And so those are two separate. It's a one-day class. And if you don't have the corners companion set, you can take the easy way and just buy just the die itself. And this is a 2-inch by 4-inch chisel block. So you can make the braid whether you have just the die or the whole set. So again, those will be March 12th and March 31st are her class on putting the braid together. It went together really easy. She finished this in one afternoon. It went really fast. Okay. So next I'm going to talk about Essex Linen. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with what Essex Linen is. What it is it's a blend of cotton and linen. And so we all know what cotton is. It comes, it's that fluffy stuff that grows on a plant. Well, linen does the same thing. Linen is part of the flax plant. You know, we're all out there trying to stay healthy, eating those flax seeds. The other part of the plant is used to make linen. So it's a linen and cotton blend, so that means the fabric is made from, it's 100% plant-based. So it's not a polyester, it has no polyester in it or anything like that. And so they're really great fabrics for mixing in with your quilting cottons. It is 45% linen and 55% cotton. So anything with linen in it, of course, if you've ever had a pair of linen pants in the summertime or a linen dress, you know that it looks great when you first put it on, and then you're looking pretty wrinkly by the end of the day. Well, that's the same thing with linens in here. They're going to have a great texture as they wear, and actually linen is even stronger than cotton, strength-wise, it'll hold up longer over time. So linen wears really well, and it also breathes really well too. So just like cotton, so it makes great quilts, pillows, bags. And so some of the fabrics that I have in Essex Linen is by Kaufman Fabrics, and they have a lot of great colors. I have a nice shelf full of them here at the shop. These are just a couple of examples. And what I did was I put this in a couple of different projects this month since the theme was blending. So what I did is I took a piece of fabric and of each color that I used, and I cut it into 3. And so I washed 2 of them. One I used in the project, one I have here, and one I left unwashed so that you can see the difference. And there's not a whole lot of difference. There's a little bit of shrinkage, but there's going to be a little bit of shrinkage with cotton too. And I don't think that there was any, maybe a little bit more because there's linen in it. It did wrinkle up. So this is the piece that has not been washed. It still has the salvages on the edge here. It's laying nice and flat. This one has been washed, and I've trimmed off, you know, the little ratty edges. So it might have lost maybe a ½ inch altogether on the piece after I've trimmed it up. But if you use starch, like Best Press, that's what we like to use here, it presses up just like it did, and it looks just like it did straight off the bolt. So I do recommend that you do wash this before you use it in a project, just because it is going to shrink a little bit differently. And what I did for the project that I'm going to show you here in a little bit, I washed all of my fabrics. I figured if I'm going to wash the linen, I might as well wash the cotton too. So I had to do a little bit of extra pressing this time, but it was worth it. I really like the table runner that I made out of this print. And again, here's the white. It's just a little bit looser weave, so you can kind of see through it a little bit more, but that's pretty much the case with any white fabric. But it is a little bit of a looser weave, but it's super soft. This is the one that has not been washed, and this is the one that's been washed and pressed. So they're basically the same. So 2 of the new fabrics plus some of the newer fabrics that I got in that are made from Essex Linen have this great black and white, really graphic, bold prints on them. And this is from a line called Quarry Trail. And I used it with black Essex Linen. And I created this bag. Yes, I made a bag. I'm pretty proud of myself. I think I did a pretty good job on it. It even has hardware and a zipper. So it's not just a tote bag, it's a real bag. And I even lined it, and it has 3 pockets inside. I was pretty proud of myself, as you can tell. But it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot of different things out of using it. But you can see the linen is going to be really durable. And I did use soft foam, soft and stable foam by Annie. And it really gives a nice body to a bag. If you've never worked with the foam to make a bag, it's really a great product. And it quilts up beautifully too. So this is the Neenah Bag. And it is by Around the Bobbin. And it was fairly simple to put together. I'm not experienced with making bags. And I found that I could understand and read the directions and read the pictures. So it's not hard at all. And I made my own handles to go on it. and even doing the zipper and the hardware were super simple. So you might want to give this one a try here in the shop. It makes a nice size bag for purse size. And that's the Neenah Bag. So the project that I made out of this pretty pale blue and white Essex Linen fabric from Robert Kaufman that I made, I put it into this table runner, which also has gray grunge, and then a couple of extra fabrics here just to give it a little pop of color. I really liked how it turned out. The pattern is called Leftovers, so it really uses up all the little scraps in your stash. And the back side, I just used all the leftover pieces of fabric that I had to create the back. And I straight line quilted this with my walking foot, just a simple follow the edge of the foot, follow the stitch marks. So it's a really easy pattern. It has where you can make 6 placemats, or just the runner, or it also has fabric measurements if you want to make all of them. So it's a really cute pattern, easy to go together. This would make a really fast gift for a wedding gift, or a shower. You can give the table runner and placemats to go with it, and you can make it in nice neutral colors like the young people are into right now. So this is the pattern called Leftovers. You may have seen this pillow around the shop. This one was also made with Essex Linen, I believe the color is called Peppered. That's the background color, and then the colors on top are Grunge. So you can see how beautifully mixing 2 different styles of fabrics are when you put them together into a quilt or a pillow. So this is also Essex Linen in Pepper. Okay. So one of the patterns I didn't get to, but I thought it kind of went along with the theme, and it would be a very easy one for you to do on your own without me explaining it, is called Desert Stars, and it's by Atkinson Designs. And what I liked about this one is that the stars blend into the border. So I think this would be a really fun one, and I really think doing this in grunge or some of this Essex linen would also be a very pretty look for your table. We also got in a book by Jason Yenter. It's called Blended Quilts Romance, going along with the blended theme. And what this whole book is about is using up those floral fabrics that you have. Florals with maybe like a white background, and then some blender fabrics that you can have to go with it. And what they do is they use instead of using the floral fabrics as the main fabric, they actually use it as the background fabric. So when you create the pattern pieces, or the pattern blocks to go in the quilt, they kind of blend into the floral fabric. And I'll show you a picture of that so you can kind of see what I mean. Here's an example of diamonds on point. And here you can see that the floral fabric is almost blending into the diamond shapes, and it gives a really soft, pretty look. The whole book is full of different patterns and designs using florals along with blender fabrics. It's called Blended Quilts Romance. So, since I'm on the subject of things I didn't get done, one that I didn't quite get done that I really am excited that I want to do, because what it is I'm using Batiks and Grunge together. And Batiks and Grunge blend beautifully together because they both have that kind of washed out look to them. They have more of a gray tone to them, so that they blend beautifully. And as you can see by my grouping that I have here, my plans for it are to put it in one of these pillow patterns in the Adidas Sitar book called Pillow Talk. Well, we had a little bit of technical difficulty there. Hopefully we'll get it straightened out so you can see where I left off. And so I'm just going to start one more time. One of the projects that I didn't finish for Beautifully Blended, our theme this month, was a pillow that I planned on making out of Adidas Sitar's book called Pillow Talk. And it is this butterfly pillow that I plan on using Grunge and Batiks together in the pillow. Grunge and Batiks blend beautifully together, and as you can see by my color choices that I have here, I plan on using the darker teal for the background in the pillow, and then create the butterfly out of the smaller pieces, all these bright pretty colors here on the front. So the butterfly is made up of little floral motifs in the wings, so it's really cute. And this is Pillow Talk by Adidas Sitar. It's a great book. It's got 25 different quilt projects in it, and they're all for pillows, but of course they can be made into quilts too. The next little tip that I have for you is part of my free motion quilting class, and it's a tip on blending your thread color to your quilt top. And so whenever I decide to quilt a quilt, I look at what colors are in it, and I choose different threads that I think are going to look good in the quilting. And what I do is I open up the thread and I lay the threads across the quilt top. The color that blends in the best is what I usually choose. One, it hides your mistakes. We all make them in your quilting. And the other thing is that it kind of gives a a more cohesive look to have the quilt show and not the actual quilting itself. So choosing a color that blends in beautifully with your quilt top is really the way to go, especially if you're new to quilting your own quilts and quilt projects. The other thing is if you have a quilt top where there's lots of different colors on top of it, maybe something like this quilt we have here that's all made out of grunge. Choosing a variegated thread can be a lot of fun because it's going to blend in some areas and it's going to stick out more in other areas. Try variegated threads. We have them in Metler and we have them in Irish brand threads too. So be sure to give those a try. Next up is a quilt that Linda made here at the shop. And we're excited because Linda's going to be starting back to work here next week. And she has some classes back on the schedule, so you'll want to check those out. The first class she has is Baby Bargello, and this is a project card by the Quilt Company. And it's a Bargello quilt made easy. And it's the perfect size for a baby gift. Linda made this one up. And the thing that's really, and it's all made out of grunge. And the thing that's really kind of neat about this is that the colors in some areas really blend together nicely, especially in the salmon colored areas. You can see it almost blends together where you lose the pattern of the Bargello, where here it's in the purple, it's a little bit more dominant. So that's the beauty of working with grunge fabrics, is that it comes in so many colors that you can blend your fabrics, beautifully. So this is a class, and it's on the calendar in March. It's a 2-part class, and this is one of Linda's. So look it up. It's called Baby Bargello. Another great way to blend fabrics is to choose fabrics like these beauties from a new fabric company to us. This is Oasis Fabrics, and this is their line called Mystic Leaves. And the leaves have very blendy watercolor look to them, and a lot of bright, really fun colors. Let me see here. So you can blend a lot of different fabrics with it. Grunge looks very nice with this. We created a quilt for a customer the other day that had this real pretty dark purple and then a nice medium purple with it, and it really turned out nice. We were really happy with the look of it. So these are the new fabric line here at the shop from Oasis Fabrics. While on the subject of classes that are coming up, I have added a couple of new classes to this month. And the first one is a machine applique class. And it is going to be in 2 different classes. One is called Hello Sunshine, and it is a gardening themed applique. These are called seasonal skinny minis. So of course the season of gardening, so that'd probably be summertime. And then we also have the So Happy class, and this is also a skinny mini. These are little 12-inch quilts that you can make up and practice your machine quilting skills on. Machine applique skills, I should say. Let me show you what those projects look like. And so here we have from Hello Sunshine is a little watering can with flowers. After you do your applique stitches and then you quilt up the little project, you add buttons for the centers of the flowers. You also have a little wheelbarrow. That could be one of the projects that you choose in the class. And then we have these cute little rubber boots with flowers growing out of them, with a little bit of rickrack detail, and of course buttons at the end after you're all done quilting. These you might have seen. This is the So Happy pattern. I did a video for demo day called So Happy a few months ago, and so these haven't been quilted up yet. They will be for the class. We have a tomato pin cushion, a little cute little sewing machine, and little thread spools. And so we're going to work on how to go around the shapes, what stitch is best for the shape that you're going around, and thread color choice so that it blends into the fabrics. And it's a fun new class. It's a one-time class, and you'll choose one of the projects from the class to work on, but you'll have the pattern so you can make all of them for your sewing room. The other new class that I have coming this month, and it's going to be on the calendar 3 times this month, is a collage quilting class. And we're all kind of familiar with the Laura Heine quilt patterns that are out there. I have a number of them in my shop, and I've even done a class on her method. And then this is Collage Quilter, and her name is Emily Taylor, and she has a slightly different way of doing her collage quilts than maybe Laura Heine does, or maybe that Susan Carlson does. There's lots of different collage quilters out there. Some are more detailed, and some have more of a fantasy-based look to them. So we're going to be using this book in the class. So it's important to pick up your book early ahead of time so you can read through the book. It's a real easy read, just simple, helpful hints to help guide you through the process. But of course I'll be there in the classroom to help you with all the different steps. And so in the class, you can either choose one of the projects in the book. There's 3 projects. There's a floral project, there's a landscape project, and there's, I believe, a volcano. And or you can choose one of her printed patterns that we have here in the shop too. And so the patterns that are in the book, you would blow them up to the size that they require, which is usually about 16 by 24. So it's not a huge project, it's just something to get you started on collage. Or you can choose to use one of her patterns. And in her patterns, she has, this is a really cute one. This is called Woodlands, and it has a little squirrel and some mushrooms and flowers and leaves. And this is one of her patterns where she gives you a pre-printed pattern piece. And what she does in her style of collage quilting is that she gives you the gradation. So she makes it easy for those who maybe aren't an artist to still be able to have fun with collage, because she tells you where to put the darks. The shading in the piece tells you where you should put the dark fabrics, the light fabrics, the medium fabrics. And in this pattern, you would create the little motifs separately, and then you would attach them to your background. Her other method of collage, some of her other patterns have these pre-printed designs on them. And so this is one called Sublime, and it's a floral one, as you can see. But as you can see, you're going to attach your fabrics to the flowers and the stems and the leaves, and you're going to put the dark colors where the dark gray is, you're going to put the mediums where the medium gray is, and you're going to put the light colors where the light gray is. Then you're also going to fill in the background with fabrics too. So you're basically adhering little bits of fabric, lots of different fabrics. The more fabrics the better for this kind of thing. You can use the fuse method or the glue method. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed making up my class sample here. I'll show you here in a minute. But this is one of her patterns called Sublime, and this is on the pre-printed fabric. This is one of her patterns called Woodlands. So I chose to make one of the patterns that are out of the book. And I chose to do the pot of or vase of flowers that are in here. And you can see here on this side the actual gradation of the picture so that you know where to put the different colors. And so you're supposed to take this to the copier and have him print it out at 16 by 24, and then you're supposed to trace it out onto your background fabric. So I didn't want to have to make a trip to the printer, so I just looked at this picture and copied it onto my own freezer paper. And here's the kind of layout of the pattern. And I used Sharpie after I sketched it out with a pencil, but I also used the pencil to kind of show me where I need darker fabrics and where I need lighter fabrics, because you're going to have a light source, and so the things that are near the light source are going to be brighter than the things that are in the shadow. And so it's a really fun art project. This is more art than quilting until you get it all done, and then you can do some really awesome thread painting on it, or just plain quilting too. So here's my project. I'm not done with it, and you still need to add some flowers up in this area and in this area over here. But this is my little pot of flowers, or vase of flowers, and it was a lot of fun to do. And like I said, the more fabrics the better. You're going to have more detail, and you use different size pieces of fabric, so you can use up all your little scraps. This class will be on the calendar for, I believe, 3 times in March. I don't have the numbers in my head right now, but you can check out our calendar for March on our website and sign up for it. You just need to buy the book and bring your background fabrics and your little bits of fabric, and I'm going to have fabric here in the classroom to share with you in case you need some extra colors for your project. So that's all I have for you today on beautifully blended quilts. And I thank you all for coming to demo day here at Sweet Stitches, and I wish you all a good day.